But Brandon, we are going to move on into our next team, and that is going to be the Baylor Bears. And this is possibly the most interesting team on this preview, this entire preview. Any conference that we have talked about thus far, this is the most interesting team to me, only because we talked about what seems like light years ago about the scandals surrounding Baylor, which led to the departure of Art Briles. We've talked in the past about when they hired Matt Rule and how he's going to change things, but now we're actually to the season. And Matt Rule, brought in from Temple, was signed on a 7-year contract and was given the task to clean up what was left behind by the former regime, everything that was going on. My question to you, before we get into X's and O's, just to kind of get it off the table and check the box saying that we talked about it, do you think that the kind of scandal that we've talked about in the past will hang over this Baylor football team this season and might impede their progress or impede their record in 2017?
I don't think so. I don't think that Matt Rule will allow that to happen. He sees a tremendous opportunity to be at Baylor, and he has said that Baylor's not running from the past, rather learning from it. They're committed to getting the wrongs of the past corrected. And I think that when you have a head coach that comes in, acknowledges that there has been something wrong done in the past, but not focusing on that, but focusing rather on the future and being able to move forward and move on and play football, which is what you and I as well should be.
Yeah.
We have the horse is dead. The horse is dead.
We don't need to beat it.
We have talked about it. We all know that what happened was a terrible thing, but we also know that these guys who are playing football now had nothing to do with that. Had nothing to do with that regime, had nothing to do what was going on at that time, and now it is time to talk about Baylor football and what they're going to be doing on the football field. And I think that, again, Matt Rule is the right guy. He very much seems like the right guy to come in, acknowledge, and move forward.
I'm going to ask you this then. Now that, like I said, got it off the table, checked the box, pushed it off. It is no longer on the table. We hit that topic right and simple at the top of the preview, just to say we hit it. Here's my first big question, though. And to me, this is the biggest question for this year. Kind of like Kansas, we talked about with them. We're going to have to make a quarterback choice coming into this year. You got two guys. You've got sophomore Zach Smith, who has the stronger arm and is expected to be the starter. But then you also have a graduate transfer from Arizona in Anu Solomon. I'm going to ask you, do you think Zach Smith being the guy from last year coming into because it's a new head coach. It's not like, well, we can go off of last year. No, both these guys coming into a new system, coming into a new coaching staff. The language and everything is new to both of them. If you're Matt Rule, do you lean on a guy that Baylor had a year ago, or do you go with the graduate transfer who might not have the stronger arm in a new Sullivan? What are you picking?
Well, what Matt Rule has said is that with him coming in, it's not fair for him to pick one guy right away, and that he will take as long as he possibly needs to see every single thing that he can from all quarterbacks to make an accurate decision of who is going to be the one that is their opening game starter. And I think that's very important. I think with him coming in and saying something like that, it doesn't matter who was here and he's going to be the guy, or it doesn't matter of, okay, we want to go completely new. We're going to go with a transfer who came in and we're going to go with him. No, we're going to go with the best guy. And he is making to state that as a point of going with the guy who he sees the most talent in. And whether or not that takes all the way until the end of the spring and everything like that, in the summer to do that, or if it's a week before the game. I guess it's kind of the same thing. I guess what my point is that whether or not it takes a very long time or it doesn't take as much time, he wants to be able to make sure he has seen everything that he needs to see to know. And now, most people are probably saying, you haven't answered Ricky's question, Brandon. You're right, I have not. But I have given the point of what Matt Rule is going to do. And that's basically what you care about.
Well, and
you don't necessarily care who I think's going to win it. You care about who you think he's thinking of.
I'm going to piggyback off of that, though, because I'm looking at an article here from yesterday basically talking about Baylor's Tuesday practice, and this is from WacoTrib.com, so the Waco Tribune. And there's some quotes in here that I just want to get out there from Matt Rule, and then we can talk about them. The first one is, they asked him about practice. He goes, "Practice was not very good today. It was a soft football team out there. Camp has been hard, and today was the last day of classes. There were a bunch of guys feeling sorry for themselves. Overall, the lack of leadership on offense really showed itself today," end quote. The second one, "Toughness has been the issue. We knew it was going to be an issue based upon the offseason. Will our guys do things at a high level when the adversity strikes, when it's really hard? Up until now, they've been really good at it all camp. Today was the first day they showed that crack. So we exposed it and see what they'll do moving forward," end quote. Before I go into the third one, which is the quarterback, what do you think from that, hearing that as an outsider from the Baylor circle? You don't have those Baylor tinted glasses on because neither of us are Baylor football fans.
Well, I think that whenever you hear the head coach saying that we saw a soft football team out there on the field and no leader,
that's an insult.
And you're openly saying that. I mean, you can say that in the locker room and say, "You guys, no one's stepping up. No one's a leader out there. I don't see anything from any of you." That's one thing. That is one thing. You expect to hear that every once in a while from your head coach if he is not liking what he's seeing. It's gonna happen. But to be able to say that where the media is able to pick it up and make that into a story, then he's very upset. That is very upsetting then for a coach. And I think sometimes, though, it's almost a tactic you put it out there, the players see it, the players hear it, people are talking to the players about it, and they're like, all right, well, we got to change that. We got to change that because it can't be like that all season long. Well, so sometimes I almost feel like it's a tactic.
I kind of like it.
It's a tactic for the head coach.
I kind of like it only because, I mean, some people might see it as like, you know what, keep it in the locker room. But no, I'm the kind of mindset where it's like, I love when the coach isn't afraid to call out players to the media. Where it's like, in his quote, did he say any individual names? No. And I'm not talking about saying like, oh, well, you know what, blah, 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 need to do better. No, just as a unit, not afraid to call out the guys, not afraid to keep them accountable, because who's the first person that's going to knock them down? The media, us. We're going to be talking bad about them if they come out and lay a stinker
That's what we do.
On Saturday. The other quote, though, that I wanted to read, this one has to pertain to the quarterbacks. He says, "I thought both quarterbacks played really well today. That was a positive. They made a lot of good plays and gave the receivers a chance to make plays on the ball. You're always looking for a quarterback that has that certain something that's special, it. Right now, they're both learning, so it might take them a couple more weeks to really see that come out," end quote. And to me, the big thing kind of circling all this back in to who might play as quarterback, the one thing that just based off of what I'm seeing here, and I know this is a microcosm of just one practice and then my reaction to it, but give me whatever quarterback, because both of them have the skill. That's what basically he was saying from that quote. Both of them know how to have a good practice when the team doesn't. Which one's going to give me the better leadership? That's the one that's going to win the job.
Tell me, what was the date on that?
That was August 8th.
So I'll tell you something back on June 6th.
Okay.
And this is a Sports Day article.
Yeah, this was yesterday as we're recording this on Wednesday.
Sure. So This is a Sports Day article from Matt Mosley, who's a contributor there. The question was, it seems like Zach Smith and Anu Solomon are the two guys in the race with Charlie Brewer somewhere in third, but that could he make an upset of these two guys? And Mosley, from being able to watch them, believes that it's a completely two-man race between Zach Smith and Anu Solomon, with Zach Smith being the guy who seems to have a better grasp of the Baylor system, which is something that is pushing more in his direction. He knows the personnel better, and he also points out to his really good performance in the bowl game last season as well. He said that Anu Solomon has been really great working with both of them, trying to help the two quarterbacks, Smith and then Brewer, as much as he possibly can. And then does make mention that Matt Rule really, really likes Charlie Brewer, but sees it as a huge doubtful that he will be playing or starting as a true freshman, but the staff certainly does love him. And so I think that right there would put Smith in the lead because of what he does have. I think at the end of the day, a lot of times, the experience that you have as the incumbent starter does help to give you a leg up, can help to give you a leg up with the other guy coming in. Sometimes that other guy can get the job, though, if he's just that much better talent-wise. But I think that helps to show you've got two guys as the front runners with a third guy who's going to be there. It just may not be this year.
Well, and the thing when it comes to Charlie Brewer, I expect him to be redshirted, and the only reason why is just look at the situation right now. I mean, Solomon's a grad transfer. Usually with graduate transfers, they usually have, I'm unsure if he has 1 or 2 years, but most of the time they only have 1 year of eligibility. So it's like if he starts, he's out anyways. But then you got Zach Smith. He's a sophomore. Why not redshirt Brewer? He's a redshirt freshman then next year when Smith is a junior. So it'll be his junior season, he's a redshirt freshman. His senior season, he's a redshirt sophomore. And then making it that if he progresses like you want, he could be in line to be your starter year 3. That important year. You talked about it in our Kansas preview. That year where it's like, you know what? This is Matt Rule's team. This is Matt Rule's team. These are Matt Rule's guys. And you're putting Charlie Brewer, the guy that you like, out there. Then it all plays in. He's got to progress into what you want. He can't take any steps back or stay stagnant. He's got to grow as a player in his what would be 3 years, because you have the redshirt year in practice and then the redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore seasons. That's where I kind of see the kind of plan for Brewer to play out. But this is a Baylor team. Like I've mentioned in the 2 previews that we've had this week before it, this is a team I have a huge question mark about. Only because you look at the talent that they have on paper. Wide receiver, they've got the talent. And the big guy is going to be Denzel Mims, where they're even saying he's going to be he could be the next in the lineage of like Kendall Wright, Terrence Williams, and Corey Coleman from this Baylor team. Then you look at the running game, you got Terrence Williams back there, giving the quarterback, whoever it may be, a solid option in the backfield. My big question is going to be, can Matt Rule get this team going to match because I kind of feel like the expectations might be, well, hey, we've had back-to-back 10-win seasons. We want that again. And it might not be the same. I'm not saying this is going to be a team where it's like, wow, 4 or 5 wins on the season, but it might not be a 10-win season this year for Baylor in Matt Rule's first year.
And it may not be. And I think that that's okay.
Oh, I'm not saying there's anything. I'm just saying the expectations might be a little high because it was like that before.
But that's what I'm saying is that it's okay that it's not a 10-win season in season number 1. If it is, wow, that's awesome. That's great. That's even better. That's should be exceeding the expectation. But if Baylor comes out and it's an 8-win season, if it's a 9-win season, that should also be acceptable. But I would even say though, if you slip below 8 and you're going down to 7 or 6, that's a little bit under the expectation. I think 8 or 9 is very doable for this Baylor team. I think that they have a lot of really good pieces on offense, and what I've been able to continue to read after reading the post to you about back in June, this quarterback situation is an interesting one, but a good one because these quarterbacks it's a close competition, and the quarterback's coach, the head coach, they're really liking what they're seeing from all of these guys. That's a good problem to have.
I want to correct myself. I got to learn to read. The back-to-back 10-win seasons wasn't for Baylor. It was for Rule at Temple. So at Temple, he had back-to-back 10-win seasons coming into this year. It wasn't Baylor that I was talking about. It was Rule himself had back-to-back 10-win seasons, and some fans might think, yeah, you know what? We can do that with the talent that we have, especially on offense, to get it done. But kind of to wrap up this...
But I just want to go back to mention you not being able to read or not being able to read.
I just wanted to correct myself. Get it out there.
I still think that a 10-win season is an over-expectation. 8 wins, 9 wins is... I think should be very good, but I would say
Do you
that
have the schedule in front of you?
I would say that 6 or 7 would be. I would say that that would be under expectations, and I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Again, their first 3 games,
they can go 3-0.
They should win them. Oklahoma at home could be a competitive game there. At Kansas State, I would call that one probably a win. Oklahoma State, a loss there. West Virginia, don't know. Texas, don't know. Kansas, a win. Texas Tech, a win. Iowa State, a win. TCU, a win. So 7, for sure. And an 8-win season would be attainable.
This team needs to because last year it wasn't like they were a terrible team the whole year. They started out 6-0. They were 6-0 to start, and then lost 6 straight to finish at 6-6 before beating Boise State in the Cactus Bowl. Almost said the Citrus Bowl. The Cactus Bowl. The thing that I don't like about this schedule is Kansas is one. I don't like how it's on the road. However, like I said, maybe I'll lean towards Baylor. Maybe I'll lean towards Kansas. It kind of feels weird saying that with Kansas. I don't like how you got Kansas State and Oklahoma State on the road. Those are going to be tough places to play. I know you beat Oklahoma State last year, but part of it could have been because you were at home for that game. Yes, you get Texas at home. That's big. Yes, you get West Virginia at home. You even get Oklahoma at home. That just because it's at Baylor, you might be able to throw, maybe they can upset the Sooners in that game. But I look at this team and I think 3-0, and then possibly Kansas, Iowa State. But like I said in their previews, I wouldn't be surprised if they won. Those are 2. Kansas State and Texas Tech are 4. You can get back to 7 wins this year. So I would say it's 7-9. 7-9 wins, but 2 of those coming between the other teams. The Oklahoma State, Texas, the TCUs. That's where those other 2 come in. You can get 7, possibly get 9. If you play really well, you can get 10. The whole thing about this Baylor team, though, is are we going to see more days like we saw in that article that I presented? Because this is a team that is going to, Matt Rule is going to need a leader, especially on offense, to be out there. And if this team does not have the leadership on the field to be an extension from Matt Rule, it's going to be hard to win football games this season.
I agree with you. I think that the less we see of that and hear of that, the better it means things are for Baylor.
But I mean, let's be honest. Hearing it at this point, this is where the coach throws it out there so that it's like, you know what, we want to fix that problem now before we get to the season. But I want to throw this on to you guys. Baylor Nation, let me know what you guys think down below. What do you expect from this team in year one from Matt Rule? Who is going to be the starter? Is it going to be Smith? Will it be Solomon? What are you looking for from this team? Let us know down below in the comment section.